Dr. Chitra, and thanks, Maipal, for having invited me to your prestigious AIRS conference. I feel honored, and I shall. It's a little deviation from the talks which you're having, but unfortunately, I have to go for a meeting back at the AIMS in the afternoon. So I requested Dr. Santosh, who's the chairman and the convener and the, the Karta Dharta, we call it in north of this meeting, and he's a pioneering academic, clinical, and you can say everything. The other day I met some people from ARC at RP Center. They had come to show us a device, a radioactive device, and they were only going gaga about Santosh's work and how he came to Trombay to do his work. So I just realized that he got one person who's, full of energy and enthusiasm, very proactive, thinks for ophthalmology and science rather than other things. So I'll just not waste any time and go on to the basics and principles. In case you're interested, please you can go through it. It's not moving.
It's not moving, sir. Can just take up.
Yeah, it's moving now. So when you have these modern gadgetry, the modern Apple laptops and all, there are always hitches sometimes when you move your slides. So the era of modern vitrectomy started with Robert McNamara, who first devised a vitrectomy-like principle machine in his garage in his house, where he took an egg and he drilled it with a drill, and which had a feature of cutting and aspiration. So Robert McNamara has always been coined the father who first devised modern vitreous surgery, and he actually worked at the Duke University at Durham, North Carolina, and he was chairperson of that hospital till he passed away. And so the present day scenario of VR surgery for postgraduates, it's fundamentally different from other surgeries of the anterior segment and glaucoma, because the posterior segment cannot be seen without adjuncts. That means you need lenses. The corneal curvature has to be neutralized, and so we use flat lenses. Of course, this is a chandelier light. We use a flat lens. This is called a KV Chalam, who's in USA, who devised this 4-flanged lens. The 4 flanges actually steady the flat lens and neutralize the corneal power by staying on the cornea. They don't kind of slip off. And otherwise, you have a non-contact procedures also, where you have a lens which is more magnified. The flat lens gives you about a 30-degree field. It's for magnified central 30 degrees. But the wide field imaging is now come into view, not only for imaging retina, but also for seeing the retina during surgery. Do you have non-contact wide angle viewing, which here is a resight from, I have no proprietary interest, but this is a resight where the lens is over the cornea. It doesn't touch the cornea, so it's non-contact. And other is a contact wide angle viewing system, waves wide angle viewing system, where this is a Voke lens, where I've told you I have no interest in any of these personal, financial commitments to any of these companies, but I just use these. So we have this contact lens which gives you a very wide field, about 140 degrees. So now the era is of wide field imaging, and you should have a vitrectomy machine for VR surgery which has a linear suction cutting or a dual dynamic drive with xenon light or a LED light with the injection and extraction, oil injection extraction automated facility, a duty cycle control where the cutter is open even at high cutting rate of 10,000 cuts. So you have to have the cutter not closed at 10,000 cut but open. So duty cycle control helps maintain that. Flow and suction control so the eyeball doesn't collapse. If there is a bleeder, you can increase the pressure of the eye with the help of a vented gas force infusion. Ideally, you should have a vitrectomy machine. The high-end vitrectomy machines have a built-in 532 endolaser, as we have at RP Center. And it's a very patient friendly and very surgeon friendly machine which we use at RP Center. We have 16 of these for our 16 theaters, and we use chandelier light. So all our probes are very light, they're literally featherweight, and it's dumbbell shaped so that if you hold it over here, it will not slip off your hand even if you're lightly holding it. So you just have to make it such a way. It's designed by the Alcon people in such a way, and hats off to them for having devised this vitrectomy machine and the probe which makes surgery so much simpler and easier and better results. So surgical training actually for retina starts in the surgical skills center for us at RP Center. We have a GOATSI facility. We have one-to-one instruction by the senior resident to the junior resident, and we have surgical simulators. We have the ISI, which actually simulates both anterior and posterior segment procedures. So this is a surgical skills center, RP Center, where the residents go regularly. As soon as they enter as first semester, they go there regularly, and with instructors, senior residents and other instructors, they try out GOATSIs for learning conventional cataract surgery. And this is the ISI by VR Magic, which again I have no proprietary term. It's an excellent VR simulation apparatus which gives you both phaco as well as vitreoretinal training. Now this is the retina screen which we use. We are pioneers for RP Center has been pioneering the 3D VR visualization device. We were the first to use it in India. Until date, we've done about 2,000 vitrectomies on this. Last 3 years when it first came into India. It's a digital imaging device which is 3D, and it's a large OLED screen. So the surgeon and our residents, which are 130, we have the largest residency program in the country. So if there are teachers, we are the teachers. I have no qualms about saying that. So we teach all these residents while operating. So to start with, vitrectomy is a 4-limb procedure. All 4 limbs are used, and you can make entry points this way. This is a minimally invasive vitreous surgery. The first infusion port is always first and last taken out, first put in. And so you would displace the conjunctiva and then enter two-planar, biplanar, or you can enter in a oblique fashion. So these are trocars which are left inside, cannulas which are left inside, and with the blade itself you can displace the conjunctiva and leave these 3. So what happens is a very atraumatic opening. You don't cut any conjunctiva, you don't shred the sclera, and it's very easily visible everything. So this is just to show you the endolaser is a very inherent part of vitreous surgery, and you should know that there's an endolaser always there, and it's a 532 green laser and a 532 wavelength, nanometer wavelength, and it gives you instantaneous reaction. And intraocular tamponade can either be with air or silicone oil for people who for eyes which have breaks, or for detachments with PVR or GRTs, or giant retinal tears, large diabetic traction detachments. Just yesterday, I operated 2 traction detachments, so we had a couple of breaks in them, and so one iatrogenic eye created. So we had to inject oil, and of course, if there's a PVR also, I did yesterday, so we had to inject oil. So uncooperative patients or single-eyed patients, especially because they can look through oil, they can't look through gas. So what we do is we refract them through oil, and they can move around. So the we give them ambulatory, unlike cataract and refractive surgery where you get 6/6. Gas, of course, is a good option. The advantage is that fresh detachments can be done, and most of my macular surgeries, in fact nearly all, we put only gas. So the advantage is no second surgery. So how much time? 14. Okay. So this is the way we fill in gas. This is a gas small canister, and we use a 3-way and a millipore filter. Fresh sterile gas is aspirated in a 50 cc syringe. The 3-way, the initial gas is removed and then taken in. This is a standard, and this is the automated VFI which comes with the Constellation machine. And these are the perfluorocarbon liquids. These are heavy liquids which are used as intraoperative tamponade, because sometimes the retina becomes stiff and it's rolled over like in giant tears. Even otherwise, it's a very useful heavily intraoperative liquid, with Stanley Chang gets the credit for that. He was from Cornell University. He is from Cornell University, USA. Now, of course, he's a chairperson of Columbia at New York. So he's a Chinese settled in US, but he's a super brilliant person, and I've seen him operate when I went for my fellowship, and he puts in all this perfluorocarbon liquid, and it makes life so much simpler for us along with the Constellation. And this is the Keeler cryo machine which we always use at our center. We don't depend on the Indian makes. Unfortunately, we need things which are working. So this is a giant tear which is unrolled out and lasered, and this is a wide field image of that. And this is the oil meniscus, the retina settled. So this is a giant tear, which is one pictures you just saw. So just a 2-second clip, because I'll finish well within time. And this is the giant tear which we do, and we use cut rate of 10,000 cuts on the Constellation. And we have the wide field imaging system. We can see the whole retina, the periphery, everything very well. And so you see the kind of irregular tears which have developed. So what we do is we first ensure that we've got a PVD induction. Once we are sure we've got the PVD induction, we use a tricot for ensuring that we've got the PVD induction. Then is the intraocular perfluorocarbon liquid, the one which Stanley Chang first came in. This is the third hand, and air I call it the fourth hand. So the two hands, of course, we have this is the third invisible hand, which is of course perfluorocarbon liquid, and you can see the perfluorocarbon liquid is all over the tear. The tear is over here. So the anterior flap of the giant tear is always trimmed off. So because this can actually roll over and cause anterior PVR, so then we laser it. This curved laser probe is an excellent device, pro laser, which is built in the Constellation. So you can take a fully loaded with the laser or without a laser. The costs of course go up, but for RP Center it's immaterial because the government gives us the grants. You make sure we get the grants. The changing paradigm is of course shift to a 23, 25, 27 gauge vitrectomy. It's often sutureless, no scarring, no astigmatism. We've got this port-based flow limiting, or we've got duty cycle control, so high cut rates, safer removal, and we've got a valvular trocar cannula system. The fluid doesn't spray out from the cannulas which are fitted in because they've got a valve. So endoillumination, I already told you. Fluidics, we maintain the. So the cutter is now a spring, not a spring action, but it's a pneumatic drive. So you can actually go to very high cut rates. So this is a 23 gauge by Constellation, and this is the way the ports have become. The 23, 25, 27, they become closer, and the tip is also narrower. So now we've just come to 3D. As I said, I've converted 100% to 3D VR visualization and surgery. So if I don't have a Ingenuity system with me, I don't think I would like to do surgery, but of course I do surgery. GAs and all, we do it. So this is on the local side of our theatre. We have this Lumera 700 with an eye OCT over here and Ingenuity over here, and this is a OLED screen, and there's a high definition camera, HDMI camera, which helps you to get this image, and we use passive Polaroid glasses, and we can have a comfortable posture, and it's very good for teaching. All the residents are totally engrossed. They ask questions, I answer. I ask questions, they answer. So it's a very good teaching skill, teaching aid. And this is a data fusion which they have given us, in which the entire details of just you have a phaco, you have the entire details of the IOP, fluid control, fluidics, cut rate, everything is there on the side. The ergonomics is there because you got to rest back on the chair and do the surgery. You don't have to peer through a microscope eyepiece, and so you don't get 2D, but you get a 3D screen. And the digital image enhancement is extremely good because the magnification is very, very high. Even tiny breaks are picked up. The image quality is very good, and we get depth perception. And this is just one small video towards the end of the 9 minutes. So this is just showing you, this is on the Ingenuity device. You can see we're putting some perfluorocarbon, we put some brilliant blue dye to stain the ILM because this is a macular hole surgery. After it, we put some this thing, and you can see the IOCT shows you the hole. So we keep the IOCT running at times in between, and then we peel the ILM so that it covers the hole. And once we've covered the hole with the ILM forceps, again I use this Alcon forceps. Now they have the shark skin forceps also, but I think it's not come to India. It's available in the US and probably in Europe, but they'll bring it to India soon. And I'm hoping they bring it because the day they get it, we'll buy it. So this is the hole closed with the tissues, the ILM stuffed in, and this is the way we do it. And this is submacular bleed. Patients often come to us, very, very often we get these submacular bleeds. So no injection is going to help them, no amount of TP in the intravitreal cavity will help them. So what you have to do is take a 41 gauge translocation needle, and what we do is, of course we induce the PVD. If it's already there, fine, then the triamcinolone will just flow off. And then this huge amount of blood is going to obstruct his vision tremendously. These are aging patients or even younger patients who develop polypoidal choroidal vasculopathy, which leads to this bleed. So what we do is we choose a site where we want to enter. We don't want to enter into a sub-PED area, we want to enter the subretinal space. The IOCT really helps us to decide where to enter. Once we enter, you see this translocation needle 41 gauge. This is self-sealing. So we don't want to use larger tips because that will lead to a hole, break over there, which will have to be lasered. So you don't want to put any laser, and you don't want to create a detachment. Till date, I must have done about 150, 200 odd, but no, not a single have I lasered, and not a single have I got a redetachment. So it's a truth. So I can speak it bluntly and boldly. So this is how we put in TPA, we put in Avastin, and we put in air. So once we do this, this is the air going in, and then you know that you can see the wide field picture. This is the wide field picture. It looks a little, you know, it looks very odd, but the next day the whole blood has displaced downwards.
Beautiful.
Because it really helps. So diabetic vitrectomy is also very important, and the complications are there, and we secondary glaucoma, intraoperative bleeding, lens opacities, iatrogenic break, post-op anti-segment neovascularization, endophthalmitis. So this is a surgery done yesterday. I just bought the clip today because fresh videos are always exchanged with old videos. This is a posterior hyaloid I cut yesterday with a 10,000 cut constellation, and this is I took the cutter with suction on, and I realized the membrane over the retina, the taut posterior hyaloid, was not so very well adherent. So I gently moved it across tangentially to separate the plane and get the hyaloid off. But to a particular extent, I realized it was coming off, making a plane very evident. But then I cut it. I didn't go beyond with any more traction, and I just relieved the hyaloid, and the hyaloid which is just kind of moving, which is cut, can then be trimmed off. So the whole traction is relieved this way. And foreign body removal is very important by vitrectomy, and you must know that the residents that the foreign body should be removed because many of these are reactive foreign bodies. Lead or glass may be left, but glass also can move around and cause trauma. So you must make sure the size of the foreign body is known, the exact location of the foreign body. So you have two choices, magnet and forceps. And the handshake technique is basically you shake hands with the foreign body so that you hold it end on. You hold it end on from one side to the other side. You can't bring it out this way. So you hold with the other forceps, hold it this way and one side. So you end on, the foreign body comes out. So opening. So now coming to the last two slides, endophthalmitis vitrectomy is very, very important. Endophthalmitis is known. Of course, we don't get to see it. Rarely do I get to see it at RP Center, but we have excellent and very 100% proof sterilization procedures. We have plasma sterilizers. Our theaters are very well. We have 16 theaters which are all excellently sterilized, and we have HEPA filters. We have laminar flow, and so we make sure we don't get this kind of a problem even in our injections. So the advantages, of course, are removing all the present day theory is that you should do a subtotal vitrectomy without inducing PVD. That's the preferred technique. Endophthalmitis vitrectomy study, which was in the 90s, they said that in worse than light perception eyes, early vitrectomy is of significant benefit, and antibiotics would have not helped in any of these. So worse than light perception, and therefore EVS is a study which you can read because it said vitrectomy only when the eyes are having very poor vision, and EVS relied on older vitrectomy techniques with known increased rates and severity of complications such as retinal detachment. By contrast, the present day minimally invasive vitreous surgeries provide faster, safer surgical option for eyes with severe inflammation. So vitrectomy has a major role in vitrectomy. In vitrectomy, a major role for endophthalmitis. The only thing is, if there's a vision better than light perception, first you can give an intravitreal injection of Vanco and Cefta, 1 milligram and 2.25 milligram once, and then maybe if the patient is stable, then twice after 48 hours, but don't go beyond 2 injections. The drug is toxic to the macula. If it's not improving, shift to vitrectomy immediately. And now I just want to highlight that we had a cluster endophthalmitis due to Avastin, and which we had to reverse. It was a drug alert in 2016, and we had to get the ministry to reverse it, but we don't want any more of these Avastin cluster endophthalmitis, so we've laid down the guidelines, and you can read the guidelines on the net, and the AIOS web page also will have the guidelines. The VRSI web page will also have the guidelines. So basically the incidence is very high. So you got to make sure you give these intraventricular injections not as an outpatient in the casualty or something. Let it be in the proper theater. So we, like in RP center, we have a separate theater for injections and UAs, which are sterilized, and again the cultures are taken and fogging is done. So with hydrogen peroxide, and we make sure bacillocid is sprayed on all the tables, and we take fresh injections. And at our place, we prepare single ampule Avastin with the ocular pharmacology helping in. So we have a laminar flow hood where we have a class 10 facility where air is very sterile, and under that we prepare the single ampule Avastin, which we cut and use in all our patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Atul, for the wonderful presentation. And every time I watch your presentation, sir, it's better than before, because I learned so many things because you're a sea of knowledge. Any questions from the audience on this basic vitrectomy techniques? Yes, sir. Do you still use Avastin in RP center, sir?
Yes. We use Avastin because we make these single dose ampules.
Single dose ampules.
Yeah. We make it in our lab, pharmacology.
You take that and
We take a full ampule
Full
from
ampule
the
and
cancer hospital,
Yes,
ICH,
right.
and we take the full bottle of 100 milligram 4 ml, and we break it into ampules.
that's right.
And 2 we send for cultures. When the pharmacology people have cleared those cultures and everything, then they give us those 18. We sell it for 1600 to a patient.
Okay.
600 rupees.
I think you also, PGA also had a similar problem in Avastin. Yeah. We are also stopped using it for the past 1 year.
So we have continued using.
Yes, but you have to make sure that you take
Yeah,
all the
we
precautions.
take single ampules. So the pharmacology department takes care of it.
Okay, sir. Any questions on this beautiful lecture by Professor Atul?